I'm here.
That's my signal. Good day, everyone. Good summer. Good Sealy Challenge to those of you who may be doing the Sealy Challenge in August, reading a collection a day, or a literary journal a day, or a chapbook a day for the month of August. You are here at Cultivating Voices live poetry. I'm your host, Sandy, and I'm the author of The Glass Studio and Boats for Women. And today we are here for our poetry kickoff for our fall season with our Sunday special event. We're calling it our end of the summer barbecue. I've got my iced tea lemonade and my burger flipper, veggie burger, or whatever you like. And our new books roundup. After the new books roundup today, we will have a limited open mic. And it's so exciting to have everyone here in the room with us. Well, I want to say again for our season opener, a special, special thanks to all our readers before the hiatus that we've been on for the past 2 months. And a big shout out to those I met in person and before and during our hiatus, as I've been traveling around this summer. It's just been incredible to be able to meet so many of you on the road this year, and I'm looking forward to those of you who I might meet in these last few upcoming months of 2024. Well, again, this week we are celebrating the end of summer and a kickoff for our fall poetry programs. They are shaping up to be so, so astounding, friends. Some of you are in them, so you know. But I'm so looking forward to spending our fall season with you as we come together in community here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry to listen, engage, use poetry as a form of conversation with each other. And today, as I said, we have a special poetry reading featuring five of our members. We are approaching 5,000 members. We're going to hit it in just a few weeks, if you can believe it, when we started in March 2020. And for those of you who might be joining us for the very first time, our group is an everyone is always very welcome. We are an international, intergenerational, intersectional group of poets who come together 3 times a month for a variety of poetry formats to share poetry and share poetry community. Well, the program would not be possible at all without the devotion and labor of Kim Ports Parsons and Don Krieger. So as we're beginning our new fall season, I just want to give a big love shout out to the two of them. Thank you so much for everything that you've been doing behind the scenes and on camera today as we get ready. And there's the heart. I've got my heart here too. I don't know if he's in the room today because I'm not tracking yet who's here, but I was in Albuquerque and Placitas, New Mexico. We're going to hear from some New Mexico folks here today. I, I've had my heart I've had my heart my whole life, but I've had this heart that I've been using on Cultivating Voices. And I gave my original one to Billy Brown. I know, Kim. I gave it to Billy Brown. So Billy Brown has the original heart. It has a little chip in it. That's how you'll know, like you'll be able to distinguish. But I was able to get a new one, so I have the same one. But yeah, so all is well, everybody. All is well. Definitely all is well.
Can you get me that?
Well, my mom is here, standing next to me.
Trying to get the volume up.
Oh, the volume. Right. Okay. I'm not sure why you can't hear it, but
You got your headphones in.
yeah. All right. I'm sure here comes Billy Brown. Well, anyway, we're getting ready to hear from all of you. And without further ado, let's just get into our featured poets. We have a mighty handful of poets today on the here at our barbecue. And our first poet that we're going to hear from is Gordon Ferris. I was fortunate enough to meet Gordon in Sligo with Kim in April. And I'm so thrilled to be able to welcome Gordon with his new collection. Gordon Ferris was born and raised in Dublin, and in the early 80s, he moved to Donegal, where he has lived ever since. He's had several short stories and poems in many publications, including Hidden Channel, A New Ulster, the Galway Review, Impspired, Lothlorien Poetry Journal, and Live Encounters. And in 2020, Poetry Ireland awarded Gordon a Poetry Town Bursary. In 2023, he had 2 books published, a short story collection, Echoes, and his poetry collection, A Mirror Looking Out. Would you welcome our first reader of our fall season, Gordon Ferris?
Thank you, Sandy, for that introduction. And thank you, Kim and Dawn, for everything you've done. I'd like to dedicate my reading to Steve Cott, who died there during the week. And he's the one responsible for publishing both of my books. And I'd also like to dedicate it to my daughter, who's been fairly ill again recently, my daughter, Sarah. Okay. So I'm going to start with a poem called When My Genie Appears. When my genie appears, I won't waste my wishes on little things, only things that change all our worlds. When you see the world only a black and white, you will never see the light in the eyes of a loved one, or the purple on a leaf. I don't focus on the flowers that fill the air with fragrance, or the drawings on the wall of a far distant place. No, I don't focus on the sound of a radio host saying the church is bad or sex out of wedlock is bad, or how it's okay to come out, or to say that you are very sad and how you are filled with dread and afraid to say it because they label you as mad. I will not use these wishes on the things that I can already change, only on the things I can't, and that will always bring joy and hope. And this poem is the title poem from my collection, A Mirror Looking Out. Religions in ancient times created by mankind to interpret what they could not understand. The sun, where did it come from? And where did it go at night? And the moon, what mysteries did it bring? How the seasons came and went, how food grew from the ground, and how all in nature was so mysterious. Our early religions answered these questions, saying it was God's doing. He went on to ask more questions, how mankind should live their lives, posing more questions just to subjugate us. When we kneel down to pray, we do so with a mirror looking inwards. We look for affirmation of what we already know. And when we speak God's name, we really want it to be a mirror image with ourselves looking back. And this is a poem that I wrote for my mother, who died in 2010. It's called Mother. Mother ironed everything in sight: socks, shorts, jackets, trousers, school ties, tea cloths, floor cloths. They all got thrown into a pile. Beds were stripped early in the morning, left blowing in the wind, ironed, then replaced on their beds. Once she washed and dried coal bags to return them to the coal man. He smiled and said there was no need for that. All habits picked up from her hard, unsmiling mother. Mother smoked up the pain for her children to make them feel good about themselves. She looked at the fly in the ceiling, wondered if it was her father taking the shape of the insect to lovingly watch over her from a higher place. She often thought her past had come back to haunt her in all odd manner of imagined ways. Sometimes I imagine I sense her presence and smell her distinct perfume. Those times I'm not those times I'm so sure she's there. And sometimes I see her in the corner of my eye and I get the scent of her cigarette smoke. And I don't be surprised when I turn and see that I'm on my own. And this poem is a poem I wrote after my father's funeral, having seen my sons experience having their first experience of loss. It's called Goodbye. The young man wept tears with regret over the old man's grey frame, fingers lightly touching the folded hands as he approached and passed, off to find a solitary place to express his remorse, to exercise his unexpected feeling of loss. The younger teenage brothers passed the dark, grey-suited man fidgeting, not really knowing what to do, wondering why they had to touch the cold corpse and bless themselves. The boys walked together, all the image of the grey man in his youth, all holding in the grief, tears falling to them in unmanly action. They gripped their grandfather's hand, kissed his forehead in homage, whispering private words, saying goodbye. Now, the next two poems I'm going to do are dedicated to my grandchildren who come to visit me every summer. They stay with us for the summer here in Donegal. They come from France. The first one is called Silence. In like a tornado, 3 mini whirlwinds pushing around, gathering smiles. Their departure will bring tears. Of all the reminders, the loudest is the silence. I wonder if in the distance between us, will they look up at the stars? And if they look at the moon, will they see the same light as I do? And the next poem is in acrostic using the grandchildren's names. The names are Nina, Chloe, and Oscar. It's called Far Away. Night transforms jumping shadows into figures dancing on the wall. No one sees these but you, and as you look at the world, your light always shines. Clear eyes and a look to have you disarmed. Any tiredness gone, you lose track of who you are. One sad eye to look to say, every breathing heartbeat is precious. Oceans apart, and yet these shores have become your other home, chosen for you out of necessity, apart from us by just hours, rough but not unendurable. And this poem is called Things Slipping Away. I tried to capture how silence rolls along in slow seconds. I tried to capture the distance in your eyes, the dimple between your thin lips. I tried to capture the way your hair twists and turns, how it glistens even in shade, how your smile fades and reignites when you realize it has. I tried to capture how long fingers tap that nervous song, and I tried to capture that racing heart, that tear that falls. And this one is called The Poor Man's Love. Being in love is like a poor man begging for alms. A man in love sits upright, cup in hand, begging for the subject of his desire to look in his direction. In dreams, you sit, hand on his arm. He has no nervousness at your touch. It elicits no thoughts or impulses. It feels just natural. You constantly push and encourage him. He often thought of being with you. In his head, in his imagined conversation with you, There's always found so many reasons why you wouldn't be interested in someone like him. He goes on to think about why he should and deserves to be on his own, convinces himself that being on his own is the best and most natural way for him to be. He has no wish to have someone become his possession or for him to become a possession. He prefers seeing the world through his own eyes, not having a view reflected through the lens of another. So he never asks her out. But sometimes he still dreams that they could be together, but always has that fear of rejection. It is always showing his ugly face, so he accepts all that he is. How am I doing for time? I have time for a few more. I exist. My only wish is to never feel oppressed by the fact that I do exist, and that all men of God be made share room with 20 sinners, just to test their fate and to piss them off. Okay. This is a poem called Questions about a foreign girl who is working in a restaurant in Dublin. I witnessed her getting abuse from somebody that I didn't like it. So I wrote this poem about it. It's called Questions. In broken English, thank you so much. Enjoy your day, sir. Earnest and heartfelt, beauty and a joy for life in her eyes. But what horrors has she left behind in her homeland to have such joy at the now just living? She travelled across treacherous seas, suffered many humiliations, felt degraded beyond what any human should endure. Why should the words of any god warbler induce you to kneel before them when you witnessed what's done in its name? I wonder if a world with no lines dividing or doctrine guiding, only steered by what's already inside us and by instinct we already know. Would they still have to leave their land, leaving behind all they know? Will they still have to live the nightmare of heart lost in a distant land? And this is an anti-war poem that I wrote at the beginning of the Ukraine war. It's called The Worst Thing About the War. The worst thing about this war is how people look like you and I, and how we can look up at the sky and not fear what's falling down on us. How can they all leave except for men of fighting age? Did they once think it couldn't happen to them the way we think it can never happen to us? Would you volunteer to take arms and possibly die for your country? Let your child become an orphan. Let your soulmate go home. Will these times bring forth legends, or is it to be more loss of the innocents? Will more heroes be born, or blood lost on the battlefield to fill the coffers of suited men who press the buttons and treat us all as pawns in their parlor games? I look at the pictures of a world gone, of loved ones living in my heart, and in darkest times I call on them when all begins to fade. And this is a poem called Safe Fantasy. She opens her black eyes. She sighs and says she talks to angels. She sits at the back of the church, talks of lustful sinners who are only lovers, while secretly lusting after a young man she belittles with her turned up nose. In her cozy chat with the priest, she furtively glances at his crotch, afraid and hoping at the same time. He does notice her and responds in a passionate embrace. A safe fantasy for her to have. And this one is called Invisible. It's kind of a love poem, even though I gave up all that kind of carry on. Invisible. I could look at you, think that you are beautiful, but never tell you. I could look at you and imagine we could look well together, but never find out if we would. We could play hide and seek, and where you stand, count to 100, and when you open your eyes, I'm still standing there in plain sight, but you still don't see me.
Ah, perfect.
And
Perfect.
this is a poem that I wrote for a friend of mine who has been abused by her husband, and I was glad to hear that she finally opened up and left him. It's called "Had I Not Heard You Weep." Had I not heard you weep, seeing your dull eyes, those heavy tears slowly roll down those thin cheeks. So you had the nerve to make a simple response to his instruction. You behave as if nothing had happened, and it leads me to wonder, why did you stay with him? Did you think so much of him and so little of yourself to let him reduce you to the shell of the beauty that you in reality are? And I'll finish with a new poem that I had workshop with a writers group that I go to in Fermanagh, and they gave me some advice on finishing it. So it's called Daydreaming. He weeps seeing human interactions. Alone he weeps to hide his humanity. He sits by himself daydreaming, watching good things happen to others. He sits by himself with book in hand to read the words that make him feel deeply. He sits by himself when it's a day for the rising moon with sinking clouds. He sits by himself to watch colour and image on canvas, sending waves crashing on the shore. He hopes the red sky will appear, the sky he loves and goes chasing for at certain times of the year, hoping it can be there to lift and bring back old feelings. Old feelings and a mood that long ago deserted him, but that he continues to search for in vain, trying to bring these old dreams back to life and have memories he recalls send a chill and that move his heart. That's me finished now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Gordon Ferris, everyone. Our first reader in our fall season. This is our poetry barbecue and new books roundup. Thank you so much, Gordon. The new book is A Mirror Looking Out. And please do make sure you check out the chat. You know what I'm so struck by is what a perfect title, because your poems are so deeply, deeply reflective. It's like it is literally the perfect title for what you do. I love it. I love it. Thank you so, so much. Folks, before we move to our next reader in the not the open mic, sorry, in our featured readers today, I just want to remind you and say welcome to those of you who are watching on Facebook. I got a few little messages on my phone giving me a little shout out to say hello. So those of you watching live on Facebook, welcome. And of course the chat is live there as well. Please use it respectfully and enthusiastically to share your love and enthusiasm for our poets reading today. And also just a reminder that any of you reading, whether it's featured poet or any of you reading in the open mic, we do deeply appreciate a content notice if you believe you have content that it might be necessary for someone in our audience or all of us to be able to make a decision about whether we might want to mute during a reading of a particular poem. You folks are well versed and usually know what the realm of those topics or subject matter is. So please do be mindful of that. I also want to remind you all that our featured readers today all have books. Some of you reading in the open mic, some of you in our audience have books. And feel free, of course, to post about any of your new publications, certainly in your new books. We certainly hope, if you have the resources, that you'll buy maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, four, five of our books from our featured poets today in our new books roundup. Well, let's move to our second reader. Again, oh my gosh, talk about my heart flowing over. To get to meet Teresa Gallion was like, yeah, I really thought my heart was just gonna leap out of my chest. It was such a delight. And because Teresa had been with us in the early days, her first book came out in those early months of the pandemic, or we were able to hear of it in those early months. And 5 years later, to be able to meet her in person. I also just want to say we're going to hear from her new book called Come Egypt. But if you think I've been traveling around, my gosh, Teresa's really been traveling around. So I fully appreciate her taking time to join us today from her travels for our Poetry New Books Roundup. Well, Teresa Gallion is a writer on a spiritual journey, and that is an understatement, my friends. Her passions are traveling, hiking, and writing. She has published 5 books of poetry: Walking Sacred Ground, Contemplation in the High Desert, Chasing Light, Scent of Love, and her newest is Come Egypt, which was released in March of 2024. Teresa was a finalist in the New Mexico Arizona Book Awards for 2013 for Chasing Light, and a finalist in 2021 for Scent of Love. It's, again, my heart to your heart. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sandy. I almost wasn't here in my low-tech status, but thanks for getting me in, Kim. Yes, I'm going to read from my book, Come Egypt, and I'm going to end with a piece that's not in there. So I'll get right into it. The river still flows. My walking meditation draws me to the spirit of the Rio Grande, soothing in the morning light. I feel regal after the benediction of an Egyptian massage. No words to adequately describe the ancient hold of energy of temple ruins and tombs, unearthed in all their glory, tease my many lifetimes sitting here beside the river. I am remarkably blessed here in the Bosque with a wave of New Mexico love light surrounding me. I gaze the eloquence of delightful cottonwood as it sings in green lyrics all around the river and me. I could shout my gratitude over and over again, and that would not be sufficient to express my joy to be home in my beloved New Mexico, reflecting on my journey. I touch the Rio Grande, step out of my body into the Nile River. I feel the weight of 4,000 years speak to me in tongues I can understand when it tells me I am still here. Mankind may pollute and abuse me, cause a temporary flu, but cannot destroy me. I will be here when all the pathetic souls of earth leave the planet. For I am eternal. I am the key of life. I am the fluid of life. I am the goddess of energy. I will survive another 4,000 years. I will still be here. My soul feels the cold vigor of those years, making me tremble in the magnitude of those words. It is the power of earth to tell its story in generational waves as we repeat the cycles of life and death, and the river still flows. coming back to my body. I sit by the Rio Grande, run my fingers across the water, feel the connection between the Nile River and the Rio Grande and the essence of a river's flow. Redemption. Take your eyes to the tears laundry. Wash them well. Go back on deck. See the world in a new light. Blood streams down my face. I want to touch you, but no, I cannot expose what is forbidden. You are an image of me in the window of my past lives floating down the Nile River. The marriage of water and light pulls me close to the river. I want to touch purity in that union, but cannot bear to embrace it. The memory is too painful. Perhaps next time when the scar feels less tender. My desires stand in shadows, stoking fires burning inside me, working to expand my fears. Now I understand the gift of stubbornness. I shall not be ruled by fear. The goddess of the river smiles as we ride currents, celebrating my insight. Dear Nefertari, you stand out in my memory bank. Even ancient Greeks paid homage to your beautiful prowess and intellectual power. They gave you gifts of silver that stood out against all the gold adorning your body. Your tomb is a womb of majesty. Were you surprised to find out when your soul left the body, you cannot take any trinkets with you into the next life? After 3,000 years, your tomb rose from the sand. You left a legacy of feminine power that screamed into the future. Many stand before your beautiful imagery in awe. Some read hieroglyphics that sing your story. Many gods are depicted in your tomb. Your presence is a powerful symbol of feminine energy given from the heavenly planes. Or was it simply Ramesses II glorifying his most beloved of many females? He was busy, always found his way back to your arms. He took your body, but never conquered your soul. How many times have you returned to Earth to fight for freedom of the sacred feminine? How many times have you stood on the edge of our planet, overwhelmed with sacred water flowing from your eyes to bathe the sadness that nature holds? Tree of life. Every tomb I enter, the key of life stares at me from sacred carvings. I rub words on the wall, a window opens, and I see chariots of lifetime after lifetime pass by. The masters whip scars horses as they run without a destiny. The hieroglyphics roll across my skin, awakening my senses to light bearers of 1,000 years. I drink deep into the past, see intellectual vibrancy and darkness sucking on dry bones. Today, light and darkness still rides winds across the planet. We adjust to ugly, sip indifference, bathe in numbness, and freeze kindness. Suddenly, the window closes. A strong feeling of deja vu binds me to that imagery. The key of life is eternal and opens and closes gates like an unending wave. Goddess Isis speaks. I have taken you in every way a goddess can. The fruit of my labor bursts between my legs. Feminine power bleeds down my thighs. You are caught in the awe of my power. I suckle you at will until my thirst is quenched. Then I lay you gently up on earth and tell my story of conqueror on these walls with the art of my pen. One day I will return to this temple. Behold the beauty of the goddess hands that scrolled on these walls. I will stroll across the temple walls and wonder in awe, who bequeathed this beauty risen from sand? And I think I've finally gotten Egypt out of my system, almost, though I'm still writing a few pieces. I'm getting into water here lately, and I just returned from in June, a trip to the Canadian Rockies and saw lots of beautiful water. Absolutely fell in love with it. And then last week I returned from the Colorado Rockies where I spent a couple of weeks camping uh, on the Arkansas River. And this is a brand new piece I wrote, so I thought I would share it. It's called The Solitudes. One, sitting on the surface of my happy place, listening to the lyrics of water in an everlasting cruise downstream. I pay homage to nature's ways for the experience of a spiritual massage. Words cannot convey my joy. A flood of glad gratitude flows from my heart. Words like majesty, magnificence, beauty do not capture the essence of this river's song. I bend my knees toward the water, open my ears to love, and simply say, thank you. Two, I meditate here on the river and listen to its song of praise to me. I see snow-capped mountain peaks in my memory of the Canadian Rockies, lakes bleeding in emerald, turquoise, and royal blue, kissed with puffy white fireballs and blue sky majesty. Shape-shifting between my happy places, unobstructed, unaffected by the noise of humankind. Water absorbs negative energy attacks, releases new stars of positive energy that regurgitates in endless cycles. Three, when I think of all the rivers I've had the honor to embrace, I know good karma is blazing within me. I feel high as a kite, no drugs needed for this kind of high. Just float in ecstasy. A stream of consciousness rides the river rapids. Only enlightened souls feel the intensity beyond this earth plane. The whitecaps rub rocks and try to flow in reverse drive. It cannot overpower the determination of a river to move forward. I sit here and watch people stroll and wonder how many hear the river's true call to love. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad I made it. I was getting totally frustrated.
I'm so glad you made it also. Oh my God. You are a river of words. You are just a river of light and love and the contemplation that you bring to your poems. Oh my gosh. I was sitting here. I won't talk very long because I got to keep the program going along. But I'm rusty, everybody, because I've been on summer hiatus. I was sitting here, I was thinking, The Solitudes, what a fabulous title. Fabulous title. And I was like, she needs to send that poem to Kamala Harris. I was like, I could hear you like reading that at like a rally or something. I was like, Kamala's got to hear that poem. So find a way to get that poem to her. She likes
Thank
poetry.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you made it. We'll see you.
Thank you.
We'll see you very soon. Folks, I just am having so much. I realize now, like, how much I missed being with everybody. I mean, I knew it, but then I'm here and now I'm having the feels of it. Oh, now I could take myself right back to February when I got to meet Dianne Knox in person. We probably met before, but this is when I really met you. I felt because I don't know, we were having our connection. And it was a very mystical day because we were doing tarot card poetry. It was amazing. So it's really, really great to have you on the program with your collection. A debut collection, my friends, a debut collection. I have so much love for the debut collections. Well, Dianne Knox is the last of 11 children. She has one daughter, two grandgirls, is widowed, and is a University of Iowa grad. Dianne has worked for a large corporation, run a small business, traveled, lived in the Midwest and Singapore before settling on the Olympic Peninsula, where she retired to devote her time to writing. She loves to read at many venues, including the Blue Hole Gallery and Port Angeles' Fine Arts Center. Port Angeles, another beautiful place on the edge of the earth. I love the edges of our countries. She's a perpetual student, whether in Italy for La Ramita Poetry Retreat or attending the Raymond Carver Tess Gallagher Writers Conference, and her work has been published in Tide Pools, Poetry Corners, and many, many other journals and anthologies. Red Hot Pepper is Dianne's first poetry collection. I feel it's so appropriate for a poetry barbecue. Red Hot Pepper. Dianne.
Hi. The cover of my book is a painting by my friend who died at the age of 95 a year and a half ago. And I wrote my first ekphrastic poem to her painting, which was at North Wind Gallery in Port Townsend. And it's called, she named it, Red Hot Pepper. Dream girl, lost in count, concentration complete. Don't trip or stumble over lines. Her red hot energy disturbs the status quo, shapes and shakes her future with each swing and jump. Stay secure within boundaries. Don't get caught in whirling air outside the rope zone. Time spent jumping obstacles, confident behavior overcomes life's steps and missteps. This is called Eddie's Smells. After Eddie died, upon entering the closet he shared with G, his life paraded before me. Smells of his no-filter Chesterfield heart attack came through, mingled with gasoline, oil, exhaust, garage dust, as if he were breathing next to me, still alive, ready to go out to work on an old car during stale winter days. He worked hard at his day job, then home to this, his hobby. He would eat dinner, throw on his coveralls, and head out into his shop. Halfway between this and bedtime, I would bring him a cup of steaming coffee to thaw his fingers and insides. He appreciated this small gesture. He thought of others, did not expect the same. You could not smell his dreams, his want, work, hobby related to the road, and that was his plan. He would grab Jerry by the hand, pull her into their camper, escape for weeks at first, months later, counting on life's vacation, lasting their wanting. You could not tell he was at his end because talk was all about future adventures, not discoveries of new places and faces, but revisiting, rediscovering, resmelling what he knew. And this is called Life is a Fight, and it was inspired by the series Succession. We struggle for a handle we cannot see, mistakenly grasp the cutting edge. Our flesh is sliced. We are resilient. The gaps coagulate. We heal to deal with the next blade. Our senses are alerted. We are careful, reaching into murky waters. The following objects are not as sharp. We are lulled, less reluctant to enter the unknown. Once we have reached complacency, the stabs seem unreasonably cruel. Survival is the final cut. Cost is precious blood we pay to eliminate the crud. Not a kiss on the lips. Life is a fight for a knife in the mud. And this is called One with Her Violin. That was your grandmother pulling her bow across those strings, hairs that she rosined with the burnt orange colored stone that held the horsehair together so the sound resonated, vibrated, enunciated, emancipated her breath, collided and saturated your ear. She couldn't put down her instrument, her voice, her influence, her choice. You felt when she played, internalized her phrase. You knew what she was saying, held close what she was conveying, never missing a beat. Playing made her complete. That was my mom. Awakening. We met over salmon, talked of wild rice and tomatoes, our appetites salivating the gamut. So intimate, I knew his experience by his lines, facial, spoken, not. His white hair, not white lies. He almost reached for my hand or a soft touch of my wrist. I looked into his eyes briefly, took in his unringed finger cautiously. I would grow tomatoes in lots of sun, little wind, not now, but next year in spring, and we would meet again to discuss his wife's recipe for perfect pesca, baked tomatoes, rice, and I would drool over their relationship. The color of grief. My grief today is colorless, like the tears rolling down, like the blank future alone, like the vacant eyes I wear staring off to what? Unknown, unwanted, uncomfortable. Then today turns blue, singing the blues, but it's good, feeling soulful, close, full. Then today turns red, red with rage that your blood no longer flows, your pulsing vibrancy still. Then today turns yellow. I can't face this. Shall I cower under cover, not facing the sunshine? Then today turns brown. In all that brown, the sun went down, but times remembered rise at uneven intervals through the blue hole of my heart. Then today turns black, and in that darkness, I feel your closeness. A calm surrounds, wrapping me with love. And finally, this is called excitation. Oh, it's the vibration of those words, of that voice, of that chord, of that sketch, of that charcoal, of those colors, of that paint, of that watercolor, of that feeling on the tip of that brush. It's the vibration of those colors you put together in that random, deliberate manner, choosing grayish green over brightish, hands carpal tunneled in such a loving, vibrating way, crocheting the reductive fabric of life in its 10 points, our soul, our beginning, our essential state of being, of living. It's the vibration of that weave, those threads of that wood, those shavings of that bent metal, that weld of that arrangement, those flowers chosen to pull out my response, make me see your sight, feel your dreams, taste your creation's flavor. It's the vibration of that stanza, that chorus, those strings, that bass, that song, that symphony, that sharp, that flat, that crescendo. Oh, that ballet of that hand held just so, of that pointed toe, that head tilted, of that leaping. It's the vibration of the texture of that fabric, of the nap, of the hand, of the fluidity, of the evocative memory of your mother's jersey dress while she's pinning clothes on a too tall line, two wet garments weighing on her tender muscles. It's the vibration of all art that energizes me to my core. Thank you.
That is Dianne Knox. The book is Red Hot Pepper. Just want to say the vibrations of that litany, the litanies that you have like embedded into each of your poems. Incredible. My mom cannot hold back when she hears what she loves. And she gasped numerous times and said, "Oh, that's gorgeous." That was one of the direct quotes. "Oh, that's gorgeous." I don't think I've ever heard her say the word gorgeous before, but it is a gorgeous way to describe a deep, moving poem. Thank you, Dianne. And
Thank you.
I hope I'll see you in October. I'm coming out.
All right.
Okay, yeah. If not sooner online, if person in October. Well, friends, we're so fortunate. We have two poets from New Mexico today with us. And I got to spend some beautiful time with John and Jules in Placitas. So much so, I'm wearing the Jules Poetry Playhouse hat today at the Poetry Barbecue. If you get a chance to be in person with the folks, I can only speak to I can only speak to Placitas and Albuquerque. Do it. I'm sure the rest of the state is great as well, but I can't speak to it in person at this time. John Roche lives in Placitas, New Mexico, helping Jules Nyquist run Jules Poetry Playhouse and edit Poetry Playhouse publications. John has an MA from the University College Dublin, Ireland, and a PhD from the State University of New York at Buffalo. He taught literature and creative writing classes for decades and was granted emeritus status upon retirement from the Rochester Institute of Technology in 2019. John was formerly president of Just Poets in Rochester, New York, member of the board of BOA Editions, and chief organizer of the Black Mountain North Symposium, and an instigator of the annual Cloudburst Council Poets and Number 39 retreat in the Finger Lakes, along with editing the 5-volume Poets Speak series. I love the series, by the way. Check it out, and other anthologies. His own poetry collections include On Kinesis, Topocalites, Road Ghosts, the Joe Poems, the continuing saga of Joe the Poet, Joe Rides Again, Further Adventures of Joe the Poet, and his newest, which may be one of my favorite titles of joy and poetry ever, Tubbables. Please join my friend and welcome my friend, John Roche.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy and Kim and Don. And I'm delighted to be invited to the barbecue and help kick off the new season of Cultivating Voices. This is the cover of Tubbables. Hopefully you can see it. And a former student of mine at RIT, Anna Vanessa Latzer, who's a really talented illustrator, did it. And I think Jules will put info about the book in the chat. So I intended Tubbables to be pure escapism, a reprieve from the anxiety that we've been feeling for the past year, past 9 years maybe, and so that was the intent. But of course, the muse had a different idea. So it became kind of two books. One is kind of happy-go-lucky and dictionary poems and childhood poems. And then there's another side to it, but you shall see. So I'm going to start with the first chapter, which is called Dictionary Doggerel, and they are, in fact, dictionary poems. This first is Argle Bargle. Argle Bargle is based on the Scots word argle, meaning argue, but of course the expression over time has come to mean a copious volume of words that don't say much of anything at all. Argle Bargle in the House, Argle Bargle in the Senate, Argle Bargle in the Parliament, Argle Bargle in the Delegate Assembly, Argle Bargle in the papers, Argle Bargle on CNN, Argle Bargle on NPR, Argle Bargle on talk radio, Argle Bargle on Twitter X, Argle Bargle on Facebook, Argle Bargle on TikTok, Argle Bargle on 1,000 platforms. Now, there used to be just human Argle Bargle. Now we have AI Argle Bargle, and maybe somewhere alien Argle Bargle. Argle Bargle, Argle Bargle, Argle Bargle, spit it out. And the next one is kind of a Joycean tribute. It's the title poem, Double Tubbable, and tubbable means, washable fabric. It's an old term. Whites and darks in the tubbable, suds and spray and toil and bubble, pound on rock or play washboard trouble, Anna, Livia, Plurabella, gossips double, splashes and sprays and tells, tells, does lovely Annabella. I'll do one more from this chapter, Eigengrau, which is a German loanword used to describe the specific color of total darkness as perceived by human eyes. Rather than black, the color that human optic nerves discern in pure darkness is a dark gray, an Eigengrau. There's no song for Eigengrau, no Edelweiss. Brain gray, every evening you greet me, doesn't quite work. Not exactly gay, nor exactly melodic, but comforting. It's comforting that in darkness, we create our own light, our own gray, a pillow of Eigengrau. The next chapter, childhood poems, the chapter is titled When We Were Young. Nap time. Dust motes float across universe. 4 years old, not sleepy at all. Dust motes float, prism on the wall. Laughs and shrieks, kids playing outdoors. Dust motes float, fireflies appear. 4 years old, a portal opens. Continuing on the childhood theme, this is In the Blue Black after Robert Hayden. I wake to sound of snowplow Dopplering down the street. Notice scraping of shovel. Dad's out in the blue-black cold. Aromas send you and your brother hurtling down the stairs to the kitchen where mom is making breakfast. The radio's alphabetically announcing school closings, first big snow of the year. Listen impatiently as 1,000 small towns report in, delayed or closed. But the tea kettle's hiss drowns out the S's, so you'll have to listen all over again. It was pre-Google. And this is called Penny Hey Penny. And I did, in fact, have a childhood friend with a name similar to this, but I hear she's a Trumpy, so I've changed it slightly. Okay, this is kind of a sing-song poem. Penny Hey Penny was a childhood friend who lived on Hey Penny Bridge on Penny Lane. Penny, we'd say, a penny for your thoughts. Now Penny would throw a penny o'er her shoulder in reply. Penny had too much sense to trade a pound for a pence. Penny always wore a mac in the pouring rain, though it seldom rains on Penny Lane. Penny left a bike lock on Hey Penny Bridge, wouldn't tell us who it was for. Penny Hey Penny left Penny Lane one morn, and her mum wouldn't tell us where or what for. Hey Penny, where you been? Hey Penny, where you been? Where have you been? And one more from this chapter called Armistice Day. We watched, or we marched, every November 11th, and it was always raining or snowing or darkly foreboding. We marched as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, as boys brigadiers and girls brigadiers, as 4-H'ers and Rotarians, or played in fife and drum corps and athletic bands. We watched the Shriners in their comical midget cars. Sandy will know about them. The corpulent governor's foot guard in their crimson coats and bearskin hats. The ruddy-faced Knights of Columbus and Masons and Elks. The nurses from the local hospitals. The gleaming red fire trucks. The veterans walking with canes or pushed in their wheelchairs, each sporting medals and a lapel poppy. All of us for an hour, doing our best to ignore the rain or snow or November gloom, hanging over each town's memorial to the dead of the Great War. Ignoring, too, the newspaper headlines containing Asian place names we couldn't pronounce. We're going to turn to the last chapter called Sandwich Wrappings. And this one is called I Saw That Movie. It came on at midnight. I was too tired to sleep, so I watched it. I tried changing the channel, but there was only Bowling for Dollars, reruns of My Favorite Martian, and some guy demonstrating how to use a potato peeler. The movie started in some American small town, what we used to call the Heartland, though I never knew why. Then there were monsters. This is titled Give Peace a Chance, we sang, believing people were better, basically, than they turned out to be, or that at least the next generation or the next would free itself of hate and bigotry. In some cases, they did. In some places, they found it easier to love folks of all races and creeds and genders, but the world still burns. Facebook Nation. One more scroll, one more post, one more headache, one friend who's ill, one friend who's boasting, one friend who's gotten religion. Another cat, another baby, another close-up of someone's extremely rare steak. One more petition, one more rant, one more gruesome photo of a war victim. One more click to end poverty, one more click to fight fascism, one more click to save the planet. Another argument with someone you've never met. Another smart-ass remark you'll regret later. Another comment meant for one person's eyes, but seen by another's. Still, that kitten's kind of cute. You're really happy to see your cousin's baby, and you feel maybe you're not completely alone in Trump land. And I'll finish up with a short poem called Virtual Reality Check. Sorry, friends, but even your best poem won't get nearly as many likes as two koala cubs grooming a tabby on top of a roof or a bobcat lounging on somebody's patio. Thank you.
And my mom said, and the panda bears. And as she said it, I was thinking about panda bears. And I have two things to say to you, John. Argle bargle, argle bargle. It's my new favorite phrase. I think we're gonna like make it go viral. I think it's like the new trend line, argle bargle. It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna move things along. I'd like to stay and meander with you a little bit, but if I get to my poem, Remember Penny Lane, my poem is for you. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be able to introduce Mary Ellen today to you, because her book was one of the books in the Seeley Challenge that I've been doing. And I wish the Seeley Challenge were not only 30 days, because I get everybody's books in. But oh my gosh, her book Taking Leave, like truly, I mean it, like took my breath away. It really, really did. So I've been eagerly awaiting hearing the poems in her voice. Well, Mary Ellen Talley's poems have recently been published in Ekphrastic Review, Caustic Frolic, Seattle Star, and Inflection Review, as well as in several anthologies. Her first chapbook, which we also featured here in New Book Showcase, Postcards from the Lilac City, was published by Finishing Line Press in 2020. And that's followed by the book I've just mentioned, Taking Leave, from Kelsay Press. She's also published this year Infusion, which is a downloadable online publication from Red Wolf Journal. Mary Ellen resides in Seattle, Washington, and has worked for many, many years as a school-based speech-language pathologist. And she now devotes her time to poetry endeavors, such as writing book reviews for various journals, of which I have been a most grateful recipient. Would you please welcome Mary Ellen Talley?
Thank you, Sandy. Okay. I want to thank John, thank all of you for inviting me to read, Sandy, Dawn, and Kim. And this is my book, Taking Leave. On the front, you'll see a picture of my sister, Catherine, who was 12 years older than I was. And we lost her to lung cancer last September. And some of the poems were gathered together that I brought to her as a gift and then later had them published. My first poem is Guzzle, Unbuckled Shoes, and it was initially published in Raising Lily Ledbetter, Women Poets Occupy the Workspace. Her arthritic hip won't bend to reach unbuckled shoes, so she heads to work wearing black unbuckled shoes. Her husband would grasp her foot to slide it inside, but can't breathe, bend down to buckle her unbuckled shoes. She leaves him with his oxygen hooked up at home, screen door flapping breezes like her unbuckled shoes. Easy on the gas, she drives small town streets where trees' dry limbs reach out to sun like her unbuckled shoes. Texas dawn, Cracker Barrel restaurant, she clocks in, drinks a coffee cup breakfast in unbuckled shoes. The custodian props his broom beside her chair, stops rounds each day to buckle both unbuckled shoes. They smile as stroller babies throw sandals across the restaurant floor and parents chase unbuckled shoes. At 70, she likes spending her store discount, part-time cashier standing in her now buckled shoes. This well enough day at its end, she arrives home with tired feet, now dreaming of unbuckled shoes. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I went down to Arizona to visit my sister who was caring for her 50-year-old daughter who had cancer. Messenger under Arizona moon. The black and white mongrel, Winston, didn't bark or budge from his place on the comforter as I lay next to you, watching your and my painted toes point at the ceiling sky on a day that turned out to be just 2 days before you entered hospice. We talked of when I babysat younger you, no mention of cancer cells or prayer. I flew home before the gauzy moon's final morning crescent exit. I heard that a black moth circled your space that day and touched each corner of the goodbye room while your mother moistened your lips. Your world slowed to a stop as the sprite flew out your barely open window. And this poem was written closer to my sister's death. My sister's landscape of trains. Does leaving a penny on the rails for luck seem too tame for a dying act? What size pebble, stone, boulder would derail the whole shebang? More likely, broken track or speeding round a curve, scattered suitcase, buried ticket stub. And I'll close with 2 longer poems. This one is Stairway to Hospice Heaven. My sister calls to ask if I know the flight arrangements her son has made, how she tried to call him, but his phone went to message. She needs to know how she'll get to the airport and whether to bring more than a carry-on bag. In a few minutes, I realize she's confusing flight time with when she'll depart this earth. Logic blurred by morphine. I'm overhearing kids, grandkids, and my husband in the other room as they watch Dora the Explorer. I struggle to utter the D word as I ask Catherine if she's afraid of dying. The Catherine of old responds, Well, of course I am. Wouldn't you be? She goes on to say she believes in a God of love and forgiveness, but isn't sure if God promises heaven. Long chat, sky darkens, we hang up. It dawns on me that my force field sister wonders whether she'll advance past St. Peter's ledger to make it inside the pearly gates. I call her back, speak ever so clearly into her ear. Catherine, you are going to heaven. She needs to know just as sure as black-eyed Susans and purple coneflowers can grow in her spent Texas soil. Just as sure as she asks her daughter-in-law to order new fake fingernails because a dying fashionista does have standards, you know. 20 minutes later, she calls again. I'm tempted to skip the call because I'm settling grandkids. I answer to hear Catherine thank me for our prior conversation and speak a quick good night as I stand gobsmacked by the generosity of the dying. And my final poem is 1956 Playlist. And all of the song titles in this poem were on the hit parade when my sister graduated from high school in Spokane. While I was learning to ride Fredine's old Schwinn, you were swinging on a star with Perry Como. Dad worked the railroad, but your top pick was Tennessee Ernie Ford singing 16 Tons about a coal miner. You mimicked Doris Day singing Que Sera, Sera, whatever will be, and held fake mics with Ferdine as you two teens harmonized sincerely with the McGuire sisters. In truth, the Platters sang, and you told me you've always been the great pretender. It was after World War II. Ike was president, and Patty Page hoped that doggy in the window was for sale. Eddie Fisher crooned, "Around the world." He hadn't yet ditched Debbie for Liz, and Tony Bennett hadn't left his heart in San Francisco. Bing Crosby moved from Spokane, and Grace Kelly became royalty while they honeymooned in black and white, singing True Love. Elvis's hip swivel on Hound Dog and Heartbreak Hotel ushered in rock and roll. Little Richard pounded out Long Tall Sally, and good-natured Perry Como cheered us with Hot Diggity Dog Ziggity. Love came true when Fats Domino found his thrill on Blueberry Hill. How you sang and sang with the Cordettes. Could there, Mr. Sandman, be your swan song? You would prefer that decorum to hearing Bill Haley and his Comets spelt out, "See ya later, alligator." Thank you all.
My mom says memory lane trip, memory lane trip. You know, what a great idea to kind of make a found, almost like a found poem out of like the hit parade. Like, you know, like it's because the titles themselves are so evocative, right? I mean, yeah. So, oh, you know, thank you so much for bringing your book alive to me, like in a new way now. You know, after having it kind of coursed through my brain, but to hear it in your voice is an entirely different thing. So I'm just really so grateful for the collection and for your poems. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, we're gonna go to the open mic now. And we've got a dozen people. So just stay an extra few minutes. As I said, I'm rusty keeping us into the 90 minutes. Truth be told, I'm not very good at it to begin with anyway. Y'all
And
know.
and a couple readers had to go
Oh,
early
okay.
for unexpected reasons, Sandy.
All
So
right.
we have 11 in total with you as our closer. So we can do it, right, everybody?
Do it. That's right. So
One poem each.
yeah, one poem each. And yeah, so first up, my friend Mona Zamfirescu, who I saw in New York City this summer at the New York Book Festival. Woo! Poetry Festival on Governor's Island.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I was so good to meet you. I was thrilled. I only have, one poem called Insomnia that I wrote today. Almost half my life, I have lived under this maple tree and all that goes with it, thinking my countless sleepless nights are some sort of insomnia. In my rush from here to there, the sounds and smells of summer lost to me. I counted years, hours, minutes of everything under the sun except these maple leaves when they come and go, and the songbirds when they come and go. I always had time to criticize, but not to hear. Hear this? Hear the incessant mowing, manicuring life to perfection, blowing all kinds of dreams to oblivion with clockwork precision. Put it away for now. I need my peace, I say. Quit for now the liturgy of incessant maintenance, high and low. Look at this tree, I say, always here. Don't think this poem is about it. Comings and goings are all the same. Look at this bee as it sucks out of a dead cicada the last summer song. Thank you.
Oh, what an absolutely beautiful poem. Well, all righty. Well, we go out to the Pacific Northwest. Kris Beaver, I'm so excited to see you.
Can you hear me?
I can, and I can't wait to hear your poem.
Okay, I don't know if you can see me or not, but well, there's some foul words in this poem. I give you a heads up on that. Okay. All right. I wrote it this morning and have been working on it. It's election time. You know what a dad is. You've seen them swearing at football teams on Thanksgiving, lighting wild fireworks on the 4th, driving fake families in SUVs on TV commercials. You know, the guys with grins and fists waving bottles of Budweiser to beckon buddies over to the grill at the backyard barbecue while their daughters play badminton, batting a shuttlecock with Barbie dolls on the lawn. Those men, the ones who come home drunk and horny, won't help pay utility bills. The ones who give really bad advice with confidence and not a fucking care in the world. They live in the here and right now, or else. You got that? America, love it or leave it. Fathers of damn commie hippie, dumb broad, bleeding heart liberals whose little dad handled girls grow up destined to vote blue. Thank you.
Great poem for a poem written this morning. Darn.
I think it was meant to be.
I wish I could throw a poem down like that. Wow. Both
Well,
you and Nona, sister twins, doing it. Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kris. And I
Thank
hope
you.
Maybe I'll see you in October too.
I hope so. And I loved everyone's reading today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, back to my hometown, my old hometown. It's been a year, Terri. It's been a year.
Yeah.
Terri Cohlene, everyone. Hello. Hello.
Hi, thank you. I felt like sharing this poem. I wrote it almost 4 years to the day. It was part of the centennial suffrage collection that we shared. And so I'm bringing it back, and I just made a little update in my last stanza. I think you'll recognize it's a little fresher than 4 years. On the centennial of women's suffrage, I imagine my great-grandmothers on their farms in rural Nebraska and Wyoming, and my great-great-grandmother in the apple orchards of Washington State. When they turned on the radio, heard about the passage of the 19th Amendment after all those years, did they cheer the news? Or did they return to their fried chicken with mashed potatoes and cream corn, call the children into supper once the laundry was snapping in the wind? Did they defy the wishes of a controlling husband, give him the silent treatment, boycott Sunday dinners, and rush out to register? Or did they refuse to sign up in protest of the need to ask a man's permission in the first place? And that fall, did my grandfathers hitch up the wagons, escort the women to the local grange 20 miles round trip in the snow? Did my grandmothers stand in line and, first time ever at the polls, give considered thought to their casting, or predictably choose that handsome Senator Harding? Perhaps they joined the line outside, picked up a new banner, demanded suffrage for all women. Now, 104 years later, I sit here bathed in the aftermath of all those liberal speeches, still stunned that there is hope after all.
Yeah, this is the foreshadowing of things to come this fall. And I'm so glad you reminded us of that amazing, amazing Sunday special we had 4 years ago. Thank you.
That was great.
It was fantastic. One of really fantastic. Thanks for being part of it then. Thanks for being part of it today. Terri Cohlene, I'll of course see you in just a few months from now. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Patrick Lodge, what a gift to have you on the program today. Thank you for being here.
It's a complete pleasure to be here, Sandy, from a very dark and cold Yorkshire. I'll read a poem called La Golondrina, The Swallow. It was a very popular song in the late 19th, early 20th century, much recorded, written by Mexican refugees in the 1850s. My grandmother had the only wind-up gramophone in Kinsale, County Cork, in the early 1920s when this poem was set. La Golondrina, my mother. Early evening, they gathered outside. Play it, they cried. My grandmother wound the Victrola, set in place the needle, let swallows fly free through the window, down Key Street to the sea. See, there is my mother in the scene. Not woman, not girl. This song of exile she hears, and she wonders. She is stilled. Now fatherless, will soon lose her country. Her heart is hollowed. She has learned to speak a new language whose lexis is ache. Speaking fills her mouth with chalk. A line will be drawn under this. She will leave this place of music and sails. will never come home. También yo estoy en la región perdido. I too am lost in this land of the lost. Thank you, Sandy. Good to be back.
Great to be back with you. Great to hear your formidable voice, Patrick Lodge. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. And back over to Canada, David Brydges. Fabulous to see you. Hope you've been well.
Yes, I have. Thank you. And thanks everyone for a nourishing day. Always an understatement. This summer, I've been reading a lot of commentaries on the 18th century German philosopher Hegel, and particularly his remarks on poetry and aesthetics. So this is my reply. Hegel revisited. There was only one man who ever understood me, and even he didn't understand me. Hegel's last words. In idealistic parameters, he references God, the man, as the only one who understood his confessions. Hundreds of years later, his codified consciousness is still an omnivorous, imponderable puzzle. To the lay mortals on a hallucinatory translation trajectory. Condensed densities of cross complexities bordering on bits of clarity. An analytical web colonized by a billion spiders seeking to entrap their prey. Student Hegel, along with poets Schelling and Hölderlin, in a short treatise posits poetry is the highest expression of art and a form of absolute spirit. Poetry can create a new mythology of reason. Enwrapped in imagination and narrative intuition, a startling story emerges. A renewed pair of perceptual eyes has scanned the habitual with verve and verse. Concepts are concrete. What is perceived is pure possibilities. Poetry exiles words from their linear straitjacket, a one-dimensional trap that gives the literary black forest space for birds with appetites awaiting their luminous flight. Later, Hegel abandons idealism and relegates poetry as not a mature representative of reality, but one needing sublimation to a scientific system of reason. Rationality is given to the royal mental throne. Philosophy, not poetry, is its carrier of expression. Mercury overshadows Venus, dethroning the queen. Hegel, eat your bagel and watch poets feast on the empty circle. On the tree of truth, the sleeping bird of being awakens from its eternal womb of nothingness. An ever-hungry subconscious hunter for its poetic mother and the spiritual umbilical cord reunification. Poets rediscover illumined reality and share it wholeheartedly.
Everybody, that's David Brydges. I have a feeling John Roche would say, "Argle bargle" to you in this moment. Fantastic. Oh my gosh. As I just put in the chat, just a little light reading this summer, Hegel. You know, just a little light reading. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, we go right back across the pond. Ona Lynch. Oh, how happy were we to get to meet you, see you, in Cork. And maybe I think in Limerick too, maybe. So glad to have you here today. So good to see you.
Thank you, Sandy. And thank you for such a wonderful comeback tonight. It was so enjoyable. And I have a new little poem. I called it Fading Colours, but I'm thinking of Mary Ellen's poem and thinking The Goodbye Room could be it. It's about my best friend who is possibly in a goodbye room. It's called Fading Colours. I enter her world every week, watch her surrender without regret. But I regret. Reach out, touching clouds, grab at fragments of our past, getting no response to stories of our adventures. She riding her bike to Crosshaven, where she could swim like a fish, but now is at sea. A teenager, she didn't even own a car, yet would drive anyone's car to get to Dublin, to the love of her life. A grandmother now, she lives in a puff of smoke. Maria from Kerry sings every song. Ellen sleeps in her comfort chair. Michael takes the mic and Brendan lets him sing his own song. Shiva from India with Elena from Poland wheel in the tea trolley, carefully filling spouted mugs with side handles and healthy pink drinks. From the damp earth's embrace, Mary could coax vibrant peonies. And yes, there is a spark. No, a flame. She has style. Like a mannequin in a store, they clothe her stiff limbs every morning, but she directs. Each garment must match the other. The shoes, the beads. Though her words are dimming, her colours never. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Beautiful poem. My gosh. My gosh. I also am thinking, to be honest, like, you know, Mary Ellen may have started a revolution with with the goodbye room. I think all of us could probably write a poem called The Goodbye Room and, have it be very prismatic, very different. Each of us would write a really different poem. It might not even evoke what we might think the goodbye room means. It would be very, very interesting. So I so appreciate that you just brought that right up to the front for us, Mona. Thank you. And again, what a joy to be with you tonight. Have a good rest of your evening. Well, it wouldn't be a Sunday without Catherine Ronan, would it? What else do I have to say? What else do I have to say? I'm gonna, that's it.
What a joy to be with you and Kim and everybody this evening. Great to be back. Today was the walled festival town. I live near Bandon, County Cork, and it's a medieval town. And when they excavated the walls, they found a guy buried in the walls standing up. So today is the festival of the walled towns. So I'm going to read you Walled Man from my book, Elemental Skin. Walled Man. Blackberry moon of the lost sea melts like a fugitive in the rain. A rusty bell calls all lavender-soaked hands to the wall. Buried in darkness, last cigarette beating between blue lips, tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth, grey teeth fall into the river of pink dream. Hands push to a crumbled future. Walled man of Bandon, excavated at last, exhales a dusty breath. It hangs on the purple night, thread veins like eels clinging to his last step.
Wow. Wow. And thank you. Anybody over in Ireland, you can see Catherine Ronan everywhere. She's always with the light, just like you are tonight. Oh my gosh. Because you don't let up. Like you keep going. Like you're like what we call here over in the States, you're like the Energizer Bunny. Just keep going. All right. I'm so excited to hear a poem today from Martha Ellen Johnson. Oh my gosh, Martha, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Okay, I have a poem, and it's related maybe to the goodbye room. Illuminated places. The night she died, I had a dream. I saw her walking in a pleasant landscape on an uphill footpath toward an illuminated place. Her back was to me. She turned and saw me watching her leave for the last time. Thrilled to see me, she smiled and waved with that familiar, excited anticipation I'd seen so many times before when I arrived at her sheltered home and we would go for coffee. There were days I thought this a chore, a boring task that subtracted from my important life. But in that moment, in her joyful smile, clarity, she knew I feared to carry on without her. You'll be okay. I'll wait here for you. Everyone had believed I was the stronger sister. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Martha Ellen. So, during the Seeley Challenge, unbeknownst to me, I read so many poems about siblings. It was so it's so so it was so moving. And it was serendipitous, but at least a quarter to a third of the collections, the major theme running through it was a connection to a sibling and a lost sibling. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we often think so much about loss of parents or if parents lose children, but the sibling to sibling relationship is really, really coming to the surface for me in poetry right now. So thanks for being part of that legacy. We'll see you again soon, I hope.
Hope.
Martha Ellen Johnson, everybody. Well, next is L Wright, and L Wright. We only have just a few more people, and then we're off into the rest of our poetry day evening. So welcome, L Wright. I'm so excited to hear a poem from you today.
Thank you. So I'm currently working on my next book, which is I'm calling a book of echoes, where I'm looking at other poems and poets and trying to learn from their skill set and writing my own poems based on theirs. So this is based on Evan Boylan's poem called Midnight Flowers. And my poem is called Apple Tree Shadows. Reclined and amused, I watched shadows dance, gray on buttered walls, more beautiful than antique lace, silent lattice of hidden sunshine. I will never see this waltz or polka. No longer do I hold claim to this ghee. I wonder if the squirrels will win the battle for the fruit or if you will fill the feeder. The mountain jays will fight for their turns, chase even a raccoon away when black sunflower seeds are there. But that is now your lesson to learn. And when I was younger, my golden locks made silly mustaches and tickled your chest, caught you in your armpits, and after I was lost, you still found my long blonde strands.
How amazing. And I'm with you. Book of Echoes. What a great title. And I love the concept. And the poem I'm going to read, it is kind of in the vein of that concept. So we're thinking alike today. We're on the same page. Fantastic. Good luck. Keep going. And we look forward to hearing more poems from the collection. Thank you so much. That's L Wright, everyone. Oh, we've missed Isaac Cohen this summer, haven't we? We've thought of him so often, and now we're so happy to get to hear his voice after a couple months and hear a poem from Isaac Cohen. My mom says, yay.
Yeah.
Says, yay.
Yes. Dear Sandy, dear Kim, dear Don, dear all my friends. Isaac Cohen, a young girl returned to the cradle in which he murmured her first word. Her lips whispered again a prayer for peace. The cannon shells flew around as though there is no spring. Only one good demon bishop enveloped her and took her to a safe place. I helped him tell the story. Thank you, Isaac Cohen, Israel. Thank you.
You're so very welcome. And the best that we can do is help tell each other's stories. I believe it. I do believe it. So what a great way to what another great idea through poetry to cast into these amazing spells that we're bringing to the program today. Well, I'm going to cast in a poem around our poetry barbecue. Again, as what L Wright was talking about, I'm reading the Seeley Challenge and I'm reading books in the Seeley Challenge, and they just can't help. They take me places. I mean, that's what poetry is supposed to be doing. And this particular book took me to the most surprising place. I don't know this poet, but if you know this poet and you want to let him know that I wrote a poem about him, I met him for 5 minutes this summer, but his new book has just come out. This is the longest title I've ever had for a poem. I'll read the title, then I'll read the poem, and then we will just have a rousing end to our poetry barbecue. This is the poem called On Questioning Whether Jason Schneiderman is the New Fifth Beatle, after devouring Self-Portrait of Icarus as a Country on Fire in the Seeley Challenge before the book's official release date, because I felt that the poetry reading at Bryant Park was moved inside on account of rain. I really should just stop there, but now here's the poem. Hey, Jason Schneiderman, the everyday is not the everyday until we dream it away, until we let it drain out of the hole in our right pocket, which we claim we didn't know existed, when in actuality we deliberately poked through the pocket's faux cotton lining while fidgeting with our zebra Z-grip retractable ballpoint pen, a convenient escape for our dream, a backdoor bait and switch, an exit stage left like the Beatles performed over and over in A Hard Day's Night, which turned from black and white into Technicolor in Help in what seemed like overnight. But who's watching those movies anymore anyway, let alone searching for the sea of holes, like the one Ringo's cartoon double kept in his pocket for a rainy day in Yellow Submarine, exclaiming, I've got a hole in me pocket before he disappears into a dream where he's the alternate reality Ringo Starr, the one that doesn't outdrum Pete Best to become the final Beatle. And so, Jason Schneiderman, enjoy your everyday, which is not your everyday until you dream it away. Hold it light in your fist, which you protect in your left pocket, knowing all too well what's about to happen in the right, and always let it, the dream, go. Jason, if you really could, it really could be worse. You could be dream releasing and crooning. You've really got a hold on me, all at the same fraught time. And what a dizzy spin that would be on a turntable, a counterclockwise retro revolution number 9 in a universe where maybe Paul really is dead, not John, then George, and you are left spinning your Liza Minnelli into the double platinum you always wanted to be. And I apologize here for taking some liberties when you've only just become my new poetry best friend. But at least I'm willing to own that I am the speaker trapped in this poem, and that no one, not even you, dear Jason, can wrestle this dreamy little dream away from me. Thank you, everybody, for all the music, all the lyrics that you evoked today in your remarkable poems as we return from our summers and all our barbecues and all our lemonades and iced teas. And would you please unmute and show your appreciation for our poets today? Gordon Ferris, Teresa E. Gallion.
Bravo, poet.
Thank you. Thank you.
And,
Nice
and
to meet
welcome
you
back, my
again.
mom says.
Thank you.
Dianne Knox and of course Mary Ellen Talley. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for staying a little extra for the barbecue tonight, this afternoon. And everybody who read in the open mic, thank you so much. We return right back next week. We go back to our regular programming, but as you know, our regular program is anything but regular. It is just quite astounding every time we get together to hear your voices. You know, here in the States, obviously, you know, we are entering the last weeks of an unprecedented presidential campaign. And I'm aware that it has ramifications for everywhere because we are all connected in this world. We are all connected in this world. So our Poets Focus next week, bring your poems for our themed open mic on the word unite. Unite. Join us next week for that. And then on September 8th, our first new book showcase in our fall programming features this amazing quartet. We'll have Kathy Haley, who's reading on behalf of her daughter, who passed away in 2018, Alexandra Zan Delane Haley, who was the poet laureate of Prince William County in Virginia. I went to an incredible moving launch of her posthumously published chapbook. I read it in the Seeley Challenge also. Kathy, her mom, will be here sharing the poems and some of her own with us, along with Josephine Loray, our good friend from Calgary, who's on her own odyssey of a book tour. And we'll be meeting for the first time on the program a poet I met again at the New York City Poetry Festival, Jen Cheng, who is the poet laureate of West Hollywood. And we'll close out our program with the one and only, I know Kim's already like whooping it up. She's in anticipation. My mom knows who I'm about to say. The one and only Grace Cavalieri, Poet Laureate Emerita of Maryland. And of course, we will come back to all of you and your tremendous voices. It's our wild card open mic on the 3rd Sunday, the 15th of September. So buckle up those shoes, maybe, as Mary Ellen Talley would encourage us, unbuckle, but buckle them back up, because we're in for some amazing poetry rides in the month of September. I want to thank everyone again for being here today at our fabulous, fabulous season opener, kickoff, barbecue, poetry, new books extravaganza. Again, thank you so much to Gordon Ferris, Teresa Gallion, Dianne Knox, John Roche, and Mary Ellen Talley, and all of you on the open mic. Well, friends, I'll see you next week. And reminder, always, always, always continue to take very good care of yourselves. Take exquisite care of your beloveds. And look at all that writing that you did this summer. Keep on keeping on with the writing, my friends. We'll see you next Sunday. Be well.